So there's a lot of cool album covers that were shot in New York. I mean, Cyndi Lauper, LL Cool J, the Beastie Boys, the Ramones, and that's just to name a few. But there's quite a few cool album covers that were shot right here in Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s. And today, we're gonna take a look at a few of those locations. Let's go see what we can find. Punk funk thrash band Suicidal Tendencies has two album covers taken around Los Angeles. Now their album, How Can I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Smile Today, both the front and back of that album were shot right here at this church. The back of the album cover was taken right there in front of the front doors of the church. Now the front album cover, that's been a little bit of a mystery for quite a while. People have been trying to figure out where that was taken, and supposedly it was taken right over here in front of a building on the side of the church. But as you can see, it doesn't really look the same as it did on the album cover. Quite a few things have been changed on this building, but supposedly a picture of the album cover was shown to a priest at the church, and he did confirm that that is in fact the same building. Now the other album that I was talking about by this legendary Venice band was Lights, Camera, Revolution, and the album cover was taken right over there on top of the marquee for the Vista Theater. Now, probably one of the most iconic album covers of the 1980s, and maybe I'm being a little biased, but I think it's got to at least be top 5, right? Prince, Purple Rain, and believe it or not, that album cover was shot just on the other side of that gate. Just past that brick facade, you'll find an alleyway, and in that alley, you'll find a fire escape with a little staircase, and it was right in front of that staircase where Prince parked his motorcycle, and they shot those iconic photos that would become the album cover for Purple Rain, and of course also the movie poster, and later the VHS cover and the DVD cover. And for years, I had no idea that they shot those photos here at Warner Brothers Studios, and the first time that I saw it, I kind of accidentally stumbled upon it, and once I figured out what it was, my mind was blown. It was one of the coolest things that I had ever seen. Now, if you come here to do the studio tour, you just might get to see that alleyway. It seems like the majority of the time they don't go over there, but every once in a while they do, so you might get lucky. And you could always request it, and if your tour guide is nice enough and if there's enough time, then they just might show it to you. Who remembers the rapper D.O.C? If you're not familiar and you like old school hip hop, you have got to check out his 1989 album, No One Can Do It Better, one of the most underrated hip hop albums of the late 80s. And that album cover was taken right here. Now, unfortunately, and I know I do say that a lot, but once again, we're not able to get the exact same shot because there's now a wall. This wall was not here in 1989, and you were able to see the entire statue. There's like a ball that the statue is sitting on top of, and you can no longer see that because of this wall. But other than that, it's the same. It even has the palm tree leaves hanging down. You know what? I think this is a little bit better. Let's try one from right here. Let's see. Okay, so NWA, everyone knows the album Straight Outta Compton, but nobody knows where the album cover was shot. We just know that it was in an alley in downtown Los Angeles. But other than that, nobody knows, and I don't either. But their first album, which a lot of people just consider to be a compilation, NWA and Posse, that album cover was filmed right behind this building. And this is also where they filmed the music video Express Yourself. And I've got a whole video that I did on that. If you have not watched it, please go check it out. It's actually one of my favorite videos that I've done. But some of that takes place right here on this sidewalk. Some of it takes place out here on the street. Some of it takes place right here in this parking lot. And right over there, right around the corner of the building, used to be a little loading dock. It looks completely different now, but that's where they took that picture. Like I said, it really looks nothing like it did back then, but this is the spot where that photo was taken. Okay, so let's jump into the 90s. I think one of the most famous rock album covers of the 90s has got to be Nirvana's Nevermind, right? I mean, we all know that album cover with the naked baby floating in the pool, but there were some other photos taken during that session of the band underwater. Now, the pool where the baby photo was taken, that still exists, and I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. But the photos with the band underwater, those were taken in a different swimming pool in an apartment building that used to be located right here. Unfortunately, the apartment building was torn down, but this is where the pool was. It was actually in front of the apartment building, so it would have been right here. And there is a way that we can prove that this is where those photos were taken, because there's some behind the scenes photos where the camera is shooting in different directions and you can see some of the buildings around this apartment building, or what was the apartment building. There's one photo where the camera is shooting in this direction and you can see this building, which looks completely different, and there's now a fence here, but you can also see this brown building, and that building still looks pretty similar. And you can also see that building across the street and on the corner. That building also still looks pretty similar. So that's how we know that it was right here where Nirvana took those photos. Now, like I said, the pool where the baby, the infamous baby picture was taken, that does still exist, and I'm gonna show it to you right now. We had to take a little hike for this one, and as I promised, I'm gonna show you where they took those pictures for the album cover of Nevermind. I mean, look, it really doesn't matter. I could show you any pool and tell you that that was the pool, right? Because you don't really see anything on the album cover, but supposedly this is the pool. I'm gonna show you, it's right over there, come on. All right, I feel a little weird. There's like 30,000 people in the pool. There's a playground right here, so I'm gonna do my best to show you this pool without looking like a weirdo, but this is it right here on the other side of this fence. Maybe we'll come this way. So this is it right here behind me, the public pool at the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center. This is where they took that famous photo with the baby underwater, and then I believe they added in the dollar bill on the fish hook. Does anybody know that? Did they add that in later? Now also, there's a rumor, I don't know if this is true, but allegedly it was also at this pool where Weird Al recreated that photo for his album, Off the Deep End. Now, how do we know that this is the right pool from Nevermind? I mean, because like I said, I really could just show you any pool and you wouldn't know the difference. But there is one way that we know that this is probably the right pool. There's a photo of the baby from that album cover. His name's Spencer. There's a photo of him when he's much older, and he's standing right there in front of the pool, and he's holding the Nevermind album cover. And he also got in the pool and he recreated that photo. He also later went on and sued, saying that he was traumatized because they never got his permission to take that photo, even though he's got a Nevermind tattoo on his chest and he recreated the photo and did a bunch of interviews, but what do I know? Okay, so the Beastie Boys, they're of course from New York. Their second album, Paul's Boutique, that album cover was shot in New York. However, they do have two album covers that were shot here in Los Angeles. One of them was shot right here. It was the album cover for Ill Communication. However, there is nothing here that we can match up. Now, that was taken at a restaurant called Tiny Nailers that used to sit right here on the corner of La Brea and Sunset, but that restaurant is long gone. So like I said, there really isn't anything here that we can match up. Now, the other album is Check Your Head, and that one you can still match up, although it's a little hard because there's usually cars blocking it and sometimes there's people camping out in that spot, but we're gonna give it a try because it's just a couple miles away from here, so let's go check it out right now. So once Ice Cube left NWA, he started putting out solo albums, and then once the group broke up, they all started putting out solo records, but I still think Ice Cube had the most successful solo career. Now, his debut solo album came out in 1990. It was America's Most Wanted, and that album cover is right here at Broadway and Olympic in downtown Los Angeles. Now, there are some buildings here that didn't exist at the time, so it looks a little bit different, and also it's kind of hard to match up that picture exactly because I'm pretty sure Ice Cube wasn't actually standing here. I think Ice Cube and that crowd of people were added in later. All right, so now we're heading all the way down south to Long Beach, California, to the neighborhood where Snoop Dogg grew up with Nate Dogg and Warren G to check out the location for Warren G's album, Regulate G-Funk Era. This is it right here, Lewis and 21st Street. He's leaning up against this lamppost. The camera is looking this way at the church across the street. So this is it. This is right where he was standing, leaning up against this lamppost, but it's kind of hard to match up the shot exactly because they're using like a wide angle lens or a fisheye lens, but we did the best we could. And like I said, you can see this lamppost and that church across the street, and then the camera is basically looking straight down Lewis Avenue. All right, Eminem, his first big album, not his first album, but the first big one that made him a superstar, the Slim Shady LP. Now this is a late one, 1999, but the album cover was right here at the Paradise Cove Pier. This is it. Eminem's car would have been parked right here. He was standing right in this spot with his little daughter Haley right beside him. Now, unfortunately, those mountains that you see on the album cover, those have since been torn down, and right now there's no gigantic moon behind us. But other than that, it still looks the same. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a couple of bonus album covers, pre-90s, pre-80s. We're gonna do a couple from the 70s, maybe even the 60s, I don't know. The first one we're gonna do is AC/DC, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap. That album cover was shot right here at this little hotel, motel, taken from right over here. Okay, Randy Newman, you know, the guy that writes songs about whatever he sees.
Fat man with his kids and dog.
His album, Little Criminals, featuring the song Short People, that album cover was taken right here on the 7th Street Bridge going over the 110 freeway. Randy Newman, isn't he the one that did the music for Star Wars? So there's not really too much to show you here because this building's been shut down for a while, and then just recently there was a fire here that was started by some people that were squatting inside of the building, and so now it's all boarded up. But right here there used to be a window. Like I said, it's now all boarded up, but right there used to be a window that said Morrison Hotel, and that's where the Doors took the picture for their album Morrison Hotel. And there's another photo that you can match up of Jim Morrison and Ray Manzarek standing right in front of the building, and you can actually still see the arch that went over the doorway. Jim Morrison would have been standing just to the left of that, and then Ray Manzarek would have been just to his right. All right, we're back at Paradise Cove, right next to that pier where the Eminem album cover was shot. For this one, we're going all the way back to 1962 for the Beach Boys' first album, Surfin' Safari. It was taken right here. So there you have it, some classic album covers from the 80s and 90s and before that were all shot around Los Angeles. And that was just a few. Of course, there's a lot more, and maybe we'll do another one of these videos in the future. If there's an album cover from the 80s and 90s that you know about that was shot in Los Angeles, let me know. Leave a comment. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.